Let's explore the third section of this course, preparing the lesson. Prayer is always the very first step before teaching or planning to teach any Bible class. Proverbs 3:5-6 teaches us to trust God wholeheartedly rather than depending on our own thoughts. We must look to Him in everything we do, and He will lead us in the right direction for our students. Whether you're using study materials or books already available, or if you're creating a lesson on your own, there should always be a few parts that are included in your lesson plan. First, decide what your goal is. Next, provide an opening, an introduction to get your students focused on what the lesson will address. The third part of the lesson is the content that you will give them. And part 4, an activity, is what gets them really interested in the lesson. The last part is the closing. Every lesson needs an opening and a closing. So just before that closing prayer, you should make sure you have a good wrap-up. Let's go through a plan together. What do we want our students to learn? Well, let's use our scripture from earlier, Proverbs 3:5-6. What is the focus or the purpose? Our goal for our students will be to learn about trusting God. In addition to the focus scripture, we'll also want to find some supporting scriptures. To introduce the lesson, decide what will grab the students' attention. Maybe we can ask them to share characteristics of someone they feel is trustworthy. They may share their response out loud or write them on a chart or post-it notes. Then for content, we give the students detailed information about trusting God. Point out the comparison between trusting their friends and trusting God. And then read the scripture again. Read the definition of the word trust. Explain what it means to acknowledge God, and then lead a discussion about why we must do this in all our ways, not just in some of our ways. Discuss the importance of following God's directions and not doing our own way. You or they may want to share an example of what happened when you did not trust God and did your own thing. For the engagement activity, get students really involved. Maybe you could have them gather in groups to do a scripture search of all the scriptures related to trust. You could set a timer and see who finds the most scriptures in the allotted time. And by the way, this is also a really great way to get them practicing searching and navigating through the Bible. You could also have a turn and talk assignment for students where they can share a real-life story about trust with the person next to them. For the closing, you may want to ask each person to share one area in which they'll choose to trust God more. Or you could ask a few of your students to volunteer to share what they'll take away from the lesson. It's good for a student to hear from another student what they learned from that lesson. Finally, we'll end the class with a closing prayer related to trusting God.